Welcome to livingpianos.com. I'm Robert Estrin. The subject today is how to count rhythms. It's essential to count rhythms so you know the timing of a piece of music. And there's lots that we can talk about here. The fundamental number one is their time signature, which tells you how to count a piece in the first place. Now, what's this whole counting about? Well, if you ever look at a carpenter, they usually will have a tape measure right on their belt, and they're checking their work, constantly measuring. Well, the way we measure in music is by counting. Otherwise, you're just guessing at what the rhythm is. Maybe you've got a good sense of rhythm, and you can listen to recordings, and you can get an idea of what the rhythm is like, but how do you know the recordings are even right? And suppose it's a piece that you can't find recordings of. At some point or another, you want to be able to figure out rhythms, and counting is the answer for that. So first you look at the time signature. A quick refresher on time signatures, those are the two numbers at the beginning of your piece of music. The top number tells you how many beats are in each measure. And the bottom number stands for the kind of note getting one beat. So if the bottom number is a 4, that stands for the quarter note, getting one beat. If the bottom number is a 2, the half note gets one beat. If the bottom number is an 8, the eighth note gets one beat. If the bottom number is a 1, the whole note gets one beat. So that's what the bottom number tells you. So you take a piece of music, for example, let's say you had a piece of music in 4/4 time. So you would count it 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you had quarter notes in 4/4 time, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you had half notes, you would count exactly the same way. And here's the rule number one. Never change the style of counting within a piece of music. The counting must remain consistent. That's how it measures accurately. Imagine if you had a tape measure that had inches marked and in other places had, multiples of 6 inches marked and didn't have the inches marked anymore. It'd be very hard to figure it out. So if you had half notes, you would count the same way, but the half notes get 2 beats in 4/4 time. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the whole notes, of course, get 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now stay with me because we're going to get a lot more complex very quickly. I just want to hit the fundamentals because everything builds from the fundamentals. And if you understand those, the rest of it will be a breeze for you. So a very simple thing like Mary Had a Little Lamb. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple. But most music isn't quite so simple, is it? What do you do if you have eighth notes in 4/4 time? Or in 3/4 time for that matter? Now, the eighth note, there are 2 eighth notes in each quarter note, and the quarter note gets 1 beat, so an eighth note gets half a beat. How do you count half beats? By saying and. So in a piece in 3/4 time, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and etc. So I'm going to go ahead and play the beginning of Bach's Minuet in G, counting out loud in this manner. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1. So you know exactly where all the notes come in. Now what about if you have 16th notes and you're in 2/4 time, let's say? So now there are 4 16th notes to each beat. and you must divide the beat into 4 parts. Well, you already divided it in half, so you just need to divide the halves in half. And for that, you use 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So if you're in 2/4 time and you had 16th notes, it would be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. If you had 8th notes, it would be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Notice the 8th notes still come in where they did before, on the numbers and the ands. Likewise, the quarter notes come in where they've always come in before, on the numbers. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. And of course, you could have half notes, which would get the whole measure. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. I'm going to utilize Arabesque of Burgmüller to show you how this works. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. Now you can see that can become a real mouthful. As long as your counting remains consistent, you could count just with the ands. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. So, in order to figure out exactly what the rhythm is, first you count with all the subdivisions. But if something goes faster, you might just think the subdivisions while counting. You can even count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But you must always think the subdivisions, particularly in dotted rhythms, when you have a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and something's going fast, you want the precision of the subdivisions. So my advice to you is when first working out rhythms, count with all the subdivisions. Then, as you get faster, think the subdivisions, and you can count with less verbiage, either just with ands or just the numbers. Eventually, work with a metronome and just hear those subdivisions in your head. Of course, sometimes you have triple divisions, and counting that is a little different story. Something in 6/8 time is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which might end up being 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So there are different aspects, and polyrhythms, things can get a little bit different. And if you have really quick notes, sometimes what I recommend is to write in lines in your music where the numbers and the ands lie, so you know where to aim, so you know which notes land with which other notes in the other hand. But that's a subject for another video, those complex rhythmic situations. For most rhythms, simply counting them out is the answer for you. I hope this is helpful for you, clarified some things for some people, or it's a good primer for everybody to remember to count your music. There's nothing worse than listening to somebody play something where the beats are not consistent. You'll lose the whole vibrancy and the foundation of the music. So counting is great, and it can figure out any rhythm. Thanks again for joining me, Robert Estrin here at livingpianos.com, your online piano resource. Thanks for subscribing as well and ringing the bell.